Hey, welcome back to the Big Ranch Show. As always, thank you for joining me. If you could, hit that subscribe button down below and let's get right to it. Now, there's been a lot of talk about what happened last week in Dallas, Texas, involving a Dallas police officer. There's been a lot of speculation, a lot of rumors, a lot of stuff we just don't really know yet. So I wanted to go through what the police affidavit has to say in this video, and I also want to talk about some other things that have not been found to be true yet. That way people will understand that they really need to hold out judgment on exactly what happened here. But I want to start this off by saying what happened is not the fault of the Dallas Police Department. This is all the fault of one person. It's not a crime that cops committed. It wasn't like they were called to this address and this man was shot. But if you haven't been paying attention to the news as of late, I'll give you a quick rundown of what allegedly happened last week. Last week, after a 12-hour shift, an officer returned home. Her name is Amber Guyger, I guess is her name, Guyger. Guyger. And she returned home after a 12-hour shift that involved a little bit of overtime, apparently. And she came home, went to what she says she thought was her apartment, found a man in the apartment, and shot him dead. That is the alleged encounter and what led to the death of the gentleman who died. The guy's name was Botham Shem Jean, I think it is. And he's from St. Lucia, apparently. And he was a well-known person in his community. Well-known as a religious man. You know, he did, musical worship type stuff for his local church every few weeks. And he was well known and well loved by a lot of people. So a lot of people are just in shock that this man is dead. But what I want to do is I'm going to go through the list here of the stuff that CNN has gotten from the arrest affidavit from when she was arrested when she was arrested on Sunday. She posted $300,000 bail within a few hours, and she was released, charged with manslaughter. Now, those charges, though, could be upgraded later, depending on what the grand jury decides and what the prosecutors decide and all that afterwards. But right now, she's been charged with manslaughter. But let's get right to it here. This is from an arrest warrant affidavit by the Dallas County District Attorney's Office. And this is what it has to say. Jean lived at 1478, and Guyger lived at 1378. So they were a floor apart. He was on the 4th floor, she was on the 3rd, and of course, somehow she ends up entering his apartment. According to the affidavit, both apartments are identical or extremely similar in terms of the floor plan, exterior surroundings, structure, and description. The man was home alone when the off-duty officer entered his apartment, still in uniform after a shift. Apparently, she had parked her car on the 4th floor and entered the building and walked to what she thought was her apartment. Now, there's a question there. I'm like, that means she drove all the way to the 4th floor and thought she was on the 3rd floor, I'm assuming. But I don't know how you make that mistake multiple times, but it's a series of very unfortunate events that took place here. She used her door key, which has an electronic chip, to enter the apartment. The door was already ajar when she approached. and the door opened simply by the insertion of the key. She said the interior of the apartment was nearly completely dark, and the woman could make out a large silhouette across the room. She drew her weapon, believing the intruder was in her apartment, and she gave verbal commands, which the man apparently ignored. But then again, it was his house. You would not expect him to, to listen to somebody else's commands in his own house. She fired 2 shots at the man, striking him once in the torso. Then she entered the apartment from there, called 911, and started administering first aid. She turned on the lights while she was on the phone, and that's when she realized, when they asked for the address, she realized she was in the wrong apartment. She requested an ambulance and police come to the apartment. The man was transported to Baylor Hospital, where he died. And she remained at the scene and told police officers and 911 that she thought she was in her own apartment when she shot him. Now that is directly from the police affidavit. I say that because yesterday I was attacked for posting things about it, even though everything I was posting was directly, and I repeat, directly from DPD. It was everything that was being reported by the local news, by DPD, as they happen. So I was attacked yesterday by helping incite anti-police protests that are taking place in Dallas. And I want to make it very clear, like I said at the beginning of this video, you should not be protesting the Dallas Police Department. They are doing everything they can to make sure justice is served here. The Texas Rangers have even been called in to ensure an independent review of this case, to make sure that justice is served. And the one thing I do know as a Texan, the Texas Rangers don't screw around. When they're called in to do a job, they do their job. So give the investigation time. But I want to discuss a few things that have taken place since this whole thing happened. There are a few pictures circulating out on the internet that have not been confirmed to be true. So I want to talk about those pictures right now. One picture is a picture of 2 different doors supposedly in this apartment complex. One showing that the police officer's door had a big deadbolt lock on it, and that his did not. So you would think there would be a massive difference, and she would realize that she wasn't in the right place. Now, neither one of those have been confirmed, because as you read from the affidavit, they're saying that both doors are basically the same. That's what I'm saying in the affidavit. So if they're almost the same, that photograph may be erroneous, trying to stir up drama. Second photograph that I want to discuss, which has not been confirmed, is a photograph of a woman who does resemble this police officer, standing directly next to, in a group photograph, with the victim, if this is the actual victim in the photograph. I cannot tell if it's actually her or not. For that matter, I have not been able to confirm whether or not it was the guy who was shot. But that would fly in the face of the argument that she's put forth that she doesn't know the guy at all. But as I said, that has not been confirmed. So before we pass judgment on anything really here, as dumb as I think it is to walk into somebody else's apartment and shoot them, and as stupid as I think it is that somebody could actually make that mistake, we need to wait for all the details to come out. We need to wait and see what happens. We need to see what's going on, or what exactly went on. The truth will come out. As I said during the Sharon Matthews case, the truth comes out. You just have to wait. You got to wait. You got to let the Texas Rangers and DPD get this investigation over with. You got to let the grand jury get all the evidence, and then we can go from there. Right now, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. There's a lot of speculation going on all sides of the issue. You got people out there trying to protest the police when this was one individual who did this on their own time. They were off duty. So just give it some time. The truth will come out. And that's really all I have for you. Just keep in mind, that the police are there doing their job, trying to figure out what happened. The Texas Rangers have taken charge in the investigation, and they are trying to figure out what's going on as well. Give them time, and we'll get to the bottom of it. Anyhow, this has been the Big Ranch Show. I've been your host, Jacob Keck, and I'll see you down the road.